Hello, Terrell here, owner of Evolution Movement. So I'm here with Terry, the owner of the Rep Music Cafe here in Brooklyn. How are you doing, Terry?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. So I created this platform to bring people in the community together with different entrepreneurs, small businesses. I've been following your journey here, so I wanted to come in, tell us a little bit about your story, where you're from, and tell us a little bit about the Rep Cafe.
Uh, my name is Terry. My stage name is Brooklyn Terry. Hence the name. I'm from Brooklyn. Um, I'm a dancer first and foremost. So I've traveled and worked with people like Mariah Carey, Whitney Smith, Whitney Houston, Will Smith, Biggie, The Brat, and the list goes on. Um, I lived in Japan for 17 years, from 2006 until the end of 2023. I just moved back to Brooklyn, and I had come home on a mission to open up something in my hood. You know, I'm from Bed-Stuy. I had my childhood years here and my teenage years to adult years in Flatbush. So I really wanted to open something in my hood. Um, my first goal was Flatbush. That didn't work out because just couldn't find a property, that simple. And we lucked out and found a great place on Nostrand Avenue
Dope.
in Bed-Stuy.
Dope. So I mean, yeah, I've been following for a little bit. I grew up in Flatbush too, so I understand and I'm also looking in Flatbush too.
Yeah.
So I understand how tough it is. So tell people a little bit about what was the toughest part so far, just finding the location or starting the process.
Well, starting the process wasn't that difficult. Starting the process wasn't that difficult. When what we were looking for, the combination of things that we were looking for, I think is what made it difficult. We needed a pretty good size
All right.
at a reasonable rent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the tough part.
Because at the end of the day, you got to pay the rent, and if the place is too big, then boom. Also, because we are trying to get our alcohol license, we couldn't be too close to a church, and
Okay.
so because we had those specific things that we were looking for, it kind of made it a little bit difficult in Flatbush. I mean, it wasn't even easy here in Bed-Stuy. We just really lucked out and found this place. The rent, folks, is real.
Yeah.
The rent is real.
Really, I mean, that's with everything. Housing, whether you get an
Yeah.
apartment, commercial
man.
space, everything. I feel like the rent is
Yeah,
crazy.
the rent is
Yeah.
breaking us down.
So I mean, so tell us a little bit about the Rep. Like, what separates the Rep Music Cafe from just your regular cafe that you might go to?
The Rep Music Cafe, what separates the Rep Music Cafe from any regular cafe is the music. We plan to have live music. As I'm a dancer, you know, music is the fuel that feeds me. We have DJ music, and my community is a really musical community. Like, my community is full with DJs and dancers, of course, and musicians. So we actually have really great talent already in the community that will be in here. And I think that my position in the community and the community that I'm in will be a big difference between the regular cafe and this music cafe.
Dope. So I mean, you said that you lived outside of America. You said you lived
Yep.
in Japan.
Yep.
So coming back to New York or coming back to Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, Flatbush area, what's the difference that you've seen
Oh,
in the
man.
last 17 years?
The rent,
Yeah.
besides the rent, gentrification, that's real.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when we move to places, we don't raise the property value.
Yeah.
But when folks move in our hood, the property value goes through the roof, and that causes the rents to go up. There are a lot of, I guess, positive things. There are just been a whole bunch of black-owned businesses that are popping up. I think
Yeah.
people got the battery in their back now because
Yeah.
they understand what's going on, and I really enjoy that. Lots of great restaurants and cafes all up and down. As a matter of fact, down Nostrand Avenue, a friend of mine, he opened a club in King's Theater. So that kind of stuff, and I like seeing black entrepreneurship is just exploded, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, doing this series of different interviews, I've got to interview a lot of different entrepreneurs, and I do think there is like a renaissance of different. I mean, I feel like there were always black entrepreneurs. Like when I was growing up, there's the Jamaican spots and different Caribbean spots in Flatbush. But I feel like now it's just like kind of branching out to other things, like not only just the spot where you go in and get food. You could actually, there's bars now, and there's places you could go for happy hour. There's places, like there's laundromats. I've seen like a black owned corner store, which I don't think I've ever seen a black owned corner store growing up. It sounds weird, being a Brooklyn.
Usually the bodegas were owned by Dominican folks or people from the Middle East.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like there is a renaissance of that. I mean, the other day I was just on I live near Flatbush Ave, so I was on Flatbush and like near Parkside, and I was at a restaurant that I always go to, and I was like just thinking about it because I grew up about 5 blocks away from there. And I'm like, we didn't have this option as kids.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, growing up was either to sit down, to go somewhere to sit down, you're either going to the diner or you're going to the pizzeria. That's really the only place
or
you can go.
If you're lucky, you get the Chinese restaurant with the bulletproof glass and an old dirty table.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was like one Chinese buffet on Utica for a little bit, for like a couple years, but that was really only it. Like now it's like I could go to a happy hour spot. On Flatbush, there's about like 5 different restaurants within like a 3-block radius where you could go there and have like, there's a DJ some days, there's brunch. So I do think that's one good thing about like the gentrification part of it. So,
and healthier food options.
Yes, I do agree with that.
And healthier food options.
I do fitness, so like even in the fitness aspect, like growing up, there weren't really many gyms in Flatbush. Now, like where I live now on like Flatbush and Church, there's 3 or 4 gyms that you could go to within like a 2-3 block radius. Like growing up, there wasn't an option. Like, you had to go to the Y or like BRC. You had to go to like the rec center to work out. That's the only option you really had. So I mean, I think that part of it is good too.
Yeah. There's I think the most painful part is cost of living.
Yeah.
I talk about the rent, but we also have to talk about groceries.
Yes.
And I know people are feeling that all over the city, but in the working class hood, that is felt probably the hardest.
Yeah. I mean, even the restaurants. The restaurants here, we used to call them Manhattan prices, but that's everything.
I remember. I remember that term.
Like, Manhattan prices, but now that's everything. Is like, to get a burger and a sit down restaurant anywhere, you're spending money.
You're kicking up a good 30.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you understand because, like as you said, the cost of living is higher. So food for them costs as much, and they have to pay for their rent, and their rent is up. So it's like a trickle down effect.
Even like here, when creating the menu with the coffees and stuff, when just creating the menu, I had to be careful to not outprice the people of this neighborhood, but at the same time balance it out with actually paying the rent, and that's not an easy balance.
Yeah, it's not.
Like I want the people from this neighborhood to be able to afford and come and sit and have pastry and have a coffee and enjoy themselves and not stress out. But at the same time, I still have to pay the bills. So it's a really, really hard balance, man.
No, it is. It definitely is tough. I mean, I've had other interviews like with people that have different businesses, and that's always a challenge. You want it to be affordable, but at the same time, it's still a business. You still want to make money, make profit out of it. So, as far as like, obviously, like being in Bed-Stuy, what do you think is the differences between like Bed-Stuy, I guess, demographic, and then like Flatbush?
The Bed-Stuy demographic is mostly African American, while Flatbush is mostly Caribbean. There are definitely more people from outside of New York living in Bed-Stuy, more white people from the suburbs or just from Middle America living in Bed-Stuy right now than there are living in Flatbush. What else? I think that, to be honest, the population of Bed-Stuy isn't as dense as the population in Flatbush. Good Lord. And I live in Flatbush, so I know. So that adds a little bit more air for, for people to get around and stuff like that. And a positive definitely about Flatbush is it's easier to get around in Flatbush than it is around in Bed-Stuy. Like there's more accessibility in Flatbush than it is in Bed-Stuy. For me here, I have access to one train. Unless I want to walk all the way to the L. And that's really far. Like we have the was it 2, 3, 4, 5?
Q, depending
Q,
on where
the B, you know what I mean? So the accessibility is a little bit different, but at the end of the day, they're both great, super rich cultural neighborhoods. And I know for people from outside of New York City wouldn't be able to understand the distinction between the two, but they are. Like there's an argument now. There's a debate
I was
now.
going to ask you,
What the capital of Brooklyn? And as a person who grew up in both places, that's a hard one to choose.
I've got into I actually seen it on Brooklyn Maven's page. Shout out to Brooklyn Maven. So I thought about it too. I mean, as a person that grew up in Flatbush, like my family's been in Flatbush for over 60 years. Like my grandparents were in Flatbush. My parents grew up in Flatbush. But I would say the capital would be Bed-Stuy. I feel like that's like the neighborhood that most people that are outside of New York know as far as Brooklyn. But I think that I feel like Flatbush is like kind of like the culturally is like a heartbeat of Flatbush. Like the dancing, the parties, parties you go into Flatbush, you know, like but like, you know, like the music aspect, that's a lot of that is Bed-Stuy. I mean, it's both.
It's
both,
hard, but it's hard.
Yeah, it's both because, like, you know, most of the famous, like, you know, rappers and stuff, they're mostly from Bed-Stuy.
No, I can argue against that. Busta is from Flatbush. Most Def, Talib from Flatbush. Like, there's a lot of
there's a lot of culture. I mean, even like, I mean, my boys Flatbush Zombies. There's a lot of Flatbush, but I mean, like, I feel like, you know, like Big, Jay, and then. Also, too, just entertainment, like, you know, like Chris Rock, if you watch Everybody Loves Chris, he was in Bed-Stuy.
Spike Lee.
Yeah, Spike Lee. What's Tracy Morgan is from Bed-Stuy. Like, so it's like, I feel like there's part of it, but Flatbush has, like, even before, like, they have, like, I mean, Flatbush has, like, Barbara Streisand. You know, going back. Like, we, you know, so
but Bed-Stuy has Shirley Chisholm. It's hard, man. It's really hard.
It's a tough one.
I kind of try to stay away from that conversation because I'm from both neighborhoods. And like my entire life has been back and forth between like walking back and forth, you know, and nobody ever mentions Port Crown Heights, which is the border.
And Crown Heights has a lot of Wheatsville, there's a lot of history there. I mean, for me, like my grandmother, she was an entrepreneur. She had like had her own beauty salon, but she used to work. She lived in Flatbush, but when she first moved to Flatbush, there really weren't black people like that, and definitely weren't really a lot of Caribbean people. Like when my family moved to the block, they were one of the first black people in that area. So it's like for her, she was coming to Bed-Stuy because that's where, you know, all the black people were. But as I grew up, it was like my whole block was all black people. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just the whole area, all my friends and everything. But they were also Caribbean. Like I'm African American, so like people, I was actually like I'm a Yankee, but I feel like in Flatbush, like I was kind of like a minority because all my friends were either Jamaican, Haitian, Trinidadian. You know. I
used to get made fun of because I had an American passport. It was hilarious. I was like, wait a minute.
I mean, that was the thing, especially growing up. Like I remember, like my dad always said, I used to be like, why are we from an island? But I'm like thinking about it, like my family has been in this area longer than everybody else that I knew. But at the same time, it was like at that point we were like a minority.
To fit in too.
When you go to Bed-Stuy, like I used to go to Bed-Stuy to play basketball and all that. It was more African American, so it was literally just two totally different.
Even like musically, like I feel like because I had feet in both neighborhoods, like I got the funk and the disco and the hip hop of Bed-Stuy, along with the calypso, soca, and dance hall and reggae, of course, of Flatbush. Like I got to, at one point on Westbury Court, was it Sister Nancy who sang "Sometime in Mount Forget"? She lived in my building, and that's how close I was at Biltmore Ballroom. Like all of the dance hall legends were also in my hood. So I guess I say all that to say, like, just Brooklyn is the best.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
And the culture here is it's a lot. I mean, as you said, though, you could go to different areas and you're hitting a lot of different cultures. I mean, you go from you go from Bed-Stuy to Crown Heights, Brownsville. You know, like it's a lot of different cultures everywhere.
Brooklyn's
throughout
the best.
Yeah. So, tell us a little bit about like what you have in plan for the rap going forward.
Well, I guess the practical plan right now is we have a backyard that we're going to be building out this month to get the decking and stuff like that. That's, people want to sit outside in the backyard or in the sun and have their coffee and be able to relax. We're going to build out the basement into a studio, a dance studio, not a music studio, a dance studio. I have a pretty large dance following, and I feel like a lot of times, a lot of places focus on strictly the music, especially black places that are cultural, focus on the music, but not too many places focus on the dance, and the dance has also helped us in this struggle. So I wanted to bring that and bring very qualified teachers who have made their mark on this New York City dance scene, because New York has definitely helped to change the world of dance, even though people don't really recognize it. A lot of the things that we do worldwide come from this city.
Yeah.
So, and that includes breaking, hip hop, house, light feet. What else am I forgetting? Flexing.
Yeah.
Like all of those things come from this city. And I want to have a place to highlight that stuff as well.
That's dope. Yeah, I mean, I actually was just talking to somebody about we were talking about just dancing. We just talk about just mostly in America, American dancing. And then we're like, I mean, for the most part, the dancing that we do, or as America, is either New York or Atlanta. I feel like, I mean, obviously there's other places that have, but like most of the dances from the newer Millie Rock and all that to to the Bankhead bounce. It's like for me, it just feels like New York and Atlanta are the two when it comes to the dances.
Yeah. Especially in this day and age. Back in the day, I could say LA because it was popping and locking. Now in Crump. But I think the staple for a long time, the staple has been this town.
Yeah.
Atlanta has also donated to the scene, but the staple has always been New York.
All right, so thank you again for having me. So let the people know where we can find you, where we can find you online, and where we can find the location.
So we are located at 450 Nostrand Avenue between Putnam Jefferson and Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. On Instagram, you can find us at the Rep Music Cafe. On the OG Facebook, it's also at the Rep Music Cafe. We haven't built our website just yet. That's coming soon. Please stop through, have a cup of coffee, enjoy the music. Come through Thursday, Friday, Saturday evenings. We do music events those times. Come through.
And opening day is April
6th.
April 6th, Saturday, April 6th. Make sure you stop by this weekend. Thank you again. It was a pleasure. Make sure you stop by the Rep Music Cafe. Follow us on Instagram at evolution_movement NYC. And like that, we out here.
Peace.